Affection, fondness, love, devotion, sentimentality, passion, affinity, loyalty, commitment, emotional attachment. It's funny how such words, such emotion, can be linked to a thing, an object from the past, a consumer goods that was designed largely to be exchanged for money. It's not an attachment you feel for a washing machine, TV, or printer. Yet somehow this is different. This little yellowing box has been a loyal companion by my side through good times and bad. An escape, like meeting up with an old friend to reminisce over the good old times. Every story has a beginning. It's the early 90s, and I visit my friend's house. He shows me something called a Nintendo, and on it a game called Super Mario Bros. I remember it to this day. The colours, the music, the fact the world scrolled by as you ran through the level. The only games I'd played up to that point were basic Atari clones. Minimal colours, one static screen, and no music, just blips. Not long after, my parents purchased this, the Nintendo Entertainment System. My memory is hazy, but I believe they purchased it from a boy's parents in the village. He had obviously grown tired of it, but his loss was my gain. I had no idea then that more than 30 years later, I would still have it pride of place under my TV, just as I always have. Original first-party games came in these black boxes, imaginatively now called black box games. I only have a couple of examples, as I'm not really a collector, but they are nice to own. This is one of my favourites. It's so colourful, and you just don't get drawn artwork like this anymore. This is the first game I remember going to buy. It still has the original sticker on it, 5th of November 1994. My parents took me to our local Toys R Us, and I vividly remember picking it off the shelf. The journey home felt longer than it should, box on my lap, reading the blurb on the back. And who can forget this? My first multiplayer cart. Perfect packing games. Mega Man 2 has to have one of the worst cover arts, but it's definitely one of the best games. And the soundtrack is outstanding. How did they make such amazing music with such basic hardware? The games came in these little sleeves to help protect the contents from dust, because of course in those days we treated the boxes as just packaging. How many times did the boxes and manuals just get thrown in the bin? If only we knew then what we know now. Of course, gaming was so new, we just didn't know. It was only after the birth of YouTube, much later in life, that I learnt this wasn't the original Mario Bros 2. What the hell is Doki Doki Panic? We just knew it as Super Mario 2, and as a child it was the only one of the three I could finish. And this is arguably one of the best games ever released. But man, did Nintendo cheap out not giving save options. Because of this, it's no longer my favourite way to play the game, but the use of yellow on the label and box art was an inspirational choice. And Gunsmoke is an awesome arcade port. And did any of you own this? The Game Genie. Just put your cartridge into this and shove it into the Nintendo. Then type in the desired cheat codes from the manual. It was witchcraft. How did it know how to change the code in the game? So there are a few ways I like to enjoy my Nintendo. I've done a few things to improve the experience and make it more convenient. The first being this. I have modified mine to offer an RGB output. This gives the best possible visual quality from an analog signal. The original RF and composites are somewhat, shall we say, lacking in fidelity, and you might find it doesn't look as good as you remembered. The RGB mod also has this switch, which effectively gives you an option to change the colour palette of the system. It gives three options, one being the colour palette you get with the Nintendo arcade systems. I keep the setting that is closest to the original Nintendo Entertainment System though. The original controller did come with a reasonably long cable, however my modern living room and gaming setup I do find it inconvenient. That's where this comes in. It's quite an old product now, but it works fine for me. This is an NES Bluetooth receiver from 8-bit Do. And what it does is it gives you an option to pair wireless Bluetooth controllers to your NES. On the front is a pair button and a micro USB for firmware updates. And that's it. It's powered from the NES itself. It's compatible with several controllers. The most obvious choice is the Wii remote, as you've probably got one of these lying around already. I like to keep my gaming experience as authentic as possible, so I just use the original controller, albeit mine is modified, so it now acts wirelessly via Bluetooth. Again, this is a mod supplied by 8-bit Do. It's a plug-and-play solution that requires no soldering, and it smartly uses the hole the cable used to exit from as a charging port. But of course, you can just use the standard controller, and technically it offers less lag than the Bluetooth option. There was also a whole host of other controllers and accessories. I don't really own any, other than this. The NES Advantage. This thing is a beast. It has a solid metal base and feels like it can withstand any amount of abuse thrown at it. It has chunky A and B buttons, variable turbo controls, and even a slow motion button. However, all this really does is repeatedly pause and unpause the game, so it doesn't work well with a lot of titles. It's also quite unique as it does have two controller ports, and you can easily switch between player 1 and 2 with a click of the switch. It feels very tactile to use, and it's great for more arcade-based games. Of course, you have the zapper and other weird and wonderful controllers and accessories, but the kind of gaming I like to do, I don't really need much else. So let's add the NES to the setup and play some games. The best way to play the NES is on an old CRT TV. It looks great, even if you use the original composite connection. And with an RGB mod like mine, it looks even better. It's what the original games were designed to be played on, and the developers took full advantage of this. Now, you don't have to use a CRT TV. I appreciate it isn't always practical to own one. However, it is a little more complicated to play the old systems on a modern TV. Most now only have HDMI inputs, so we need to find a way around this. The solution is to use a scaler. This takes analog video sources, upscales the resolution, and outputs digital signal via HDMI. There are several on the market. A lot are absolute trash, but some are state of the art and are designed especially for retro gaming. This is what I use. It's an XRGB FrameMeister. I've owned it around 10 years now and it works really well. I have all my saved profiles that I've refined over years of owning it. However, I wouldn't recommend you go out and buy a FrameMeister. Even if you can find one for sale, there are plenty of better solutions. One of the better ones is from a company called RetroTink. As you can see, it looks great. It's quite a sight to see these old pixels on a 43-inch 4K TV. Make sure you have your TV set to game mode, if it has one. And if it doesn't, make sure you turn off any unnecessary processing to reduce any input lag. I still prefer playing on the CRT, however for many years this was how I did it, and it's still a great way to relive old games and consoles. Unfortunately, light gun games won't work on a modern screen. So if you do love these old arcade style shooters, a CRT is the only way to go. And I had no idea until recently, but the second player can control the ducks. Who knew? And of course, the game that started it all, back in my friend's lounge, sitting on the floor, amazed at what I was seeing. I think it's hard for young people to understand just how much of a big deal this thing was. The original Super Mario Bros. Is now looked as an archetypal retro game, with its dated graphics and simple but catchy music. But for my generation, this was the cutting edge of gaming tech. It was mesmerising and beautiful. I've long since lost touch with my old school friend. I no longer know where he is or how he is doing, but I cherish my old memories of the two of us, sat cross-legged on the floor, taking it in turns playing through the levels of Super Mario Bros., frozen in time together, sharing a moment in gaming history. I hope he's doing well, and I also hope he thinks back to those times too, sat with his best mate playing Nintendo. Thank you for spending time with me today, and I hope to see you back here soon.